Everyone, back to you into today's video. Going to have a look at the weather for the next couple of weeks in today's video. The GFS temperature ensembles have trended a bit colder, so I do wonder whether we are starting to see signs of a cold spell sort of creeping up on us over the next week or two. We're going to be in colder air down behind the big storm system that's heading in through the middle part of the week. We'll have a look at the detail on that in a moment. Cold air comes in, and that could take quite a bit of shifting, actually. Now, we're not talking severely cold air, but certainly enough to produce wintry conditions. And as the Atlantic, in about a week's time, tries to shift that out of the country and turn it milder, there could be a bit of a battle going on, and maybe the first sort of hints that we could get a bit of a snow event, actually, in around a week's time. So the Atlantic tries to shift that cold air out of the country and sort of has a real battle on its hands to do it. So it's all getting quite interesting, and we may be seeing indications of the colder spell creeping up on us. It's a bit of a slow burner. It's not indications of severe cold conditions, but solidly going below average probably at the end of the week, and that could last for a little while. So before I get on with that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on most of the pages at GazWeatherViz.com. Have a browse through widgets. If there's any articles that you're interested in, just click through. You'll be able to go off and read those articles. We can finish at the website, of course, and by doing that you're helping to support GazWeatherViz.com, so thanks so much for getting involved and doing that. Right, these are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles. The red line here is the 30-year temperature average. We're a little bit above average down in the south today. Mild, wet and windy day in the south. But once this rain goes through tonight, temperatures will be dropping. And then we're going solidly below average, really. We do get a bit of a pick-up there on Wednesday, late Wednesday into Thursday, as that storm system that I was talking about earlier comes in off the Atlantic. But really, once we get today out of the way, we're looking at a fairly cold couple of weeks, really. I say the red line 30-year average, and we are going below average. Now, I'm not talking severe cold temperatures. To get severe cold temperatures, we will have to be down here around -10 to -15 at 850 HPA. Nevertheless, the temperature ensembles are solidly below the red line, down to -5 Celsius, which is just there. But it is cold air, and as you can see, that sort of extends through the ensemble, even as we get towards the latter part of the graph. The temperature ensembles are staying generally below average. There is quite a bit of scatter there, as you always get in the second half of the chart, but the white line, which is the ensemble mean, and that takes each individual member of the GFS ensemble and creates a mean line out of all those individual lines. That white line stays below the 30-year average throughout, even right to the very end. It really is staying below the 30-year average. So that is indications there that we've got a pretty cold spell creeping up on us. Not a severely cold spell, but a pretty cold spell coming up. It's more than a cold snap, because a cold snap is just 2 or 3 days of below average weather. This looks like it could be a week, maybe even a little bit more of below average weather, although possibly with the odd milder interruption. But generally quite a cool ensemble, that, or quite a cold ensemble. It's certainly the coldest ensemble that we've had this winter so far. Now with this, we're keeping the rainfall spikes going as well, so that's quite interesting, or the precipitation spikes, I should say in this case, because with temperatures below average, down to -5 at 850 HPA, and plenty of precipitation still coming through, there is the risk there that we could get some wintry conditions, and certainly in about a week's time, I wouldn't be ruling out the chance of some fairly widespread snow across parts of the country. Of course, that's a long way off, so I'll have to firm up on it, but that's sort of the hints this morning. Now, this is the temperature anomaly for the coming week. This takes us from the 12th to the 20th of January. We're going to be below average, cooler average week coming up. Not severely cold, but temperature anomalies around 1 to 2 degrees below average for the British Isles and for Ireland and most of Western Europe as well. The warmest anomalies through central and eastern parts of Europe, although even there, I think later on this week and into the weekend, it will be starting to cool down. So again, that is indicative that the temperatures are lowering as we go through the next week or two. Now, this storm system's been trending a bit further north than was the case yesterday. Yesterday, when I did the updates, it looked as though it was going to be England and Wales that got the worst of the wind. Now the low pressure's being pushed north, but going just to the north of Scotland. So that means that Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England is in the firing line for the worst of the damaging winds on Thursday, whereas further south and southeast. Although it will be windy, there will be gales around, it won't be quite as bad. It's up in the north that could get the worst of it. This is all still subject to change. These sort of deep storm systems, it's hard for the models to pin down their exact track, so this could be trended a bit further southwards again, or it could go even further northwards. We'll have to wait and see, and of course we'll keep updating about it until we get to the event. But anyway, this is the chart, the latest chart from the GFS model for Wednesday the 14th, and there's the low pressure at midday in the Atlantic, deepening like mad as we run through into 6 o'clock in the evening. We've got a 950 millibar storm system bearing down on the north west of the country. Very tight backed ice bars ahead of it, so it will be windy through Wednesday. Wind will be picking up, and there'll be rain sweeping in from the Atlantic later on in the day and into the evening. That'll be a cold wind as well. Wednesday's going to be cold down. With the wind picking up, it's really going to feel quite bitter. As we go through into midnight on Thursday, wet and windy weather sweeping the country. That's in that section just there, the green section. That could be heavy rain and also gales almost anywhere, really. Severe gales around southern and western coast. And even down in the southeast, you can get gales with that. But it's as that clears that the centre of the low pressure starts to move in, and that's when the most damaging of the winds occur. And the centre of that low pressure, as they have been trended a bit further northwards on this morning's model. So there it comes at 6 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, just heading into the west of Scotland, far northwest of Scotland. And it's on the southern side, as always, that you get the worst of the winds, and that really brings Northern Ireland, central southern Scotland and northern England into the firing line through Thursday morning. Now, as you can see, the rest of England and Wales is very windy. It will be windy in the south with the risk of gale force gusts, but it's in the north that the worst of the conditions are through Thursday on this particular chart anyway. Central southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern England, in that area, you could be getting gusts of wind up to easily 60 to 70 miles an hour, some places going up to 80 miles an hour or more. That is enough to produce damaging and destructive weather up in the north of the country. As I say, this low pressure, although this morning it's been trended a bit further northwards with its centre, it could be trended southwards again over the next few updates. So we're going to have to keep an eye on it, of course, to see where its exact track eventually ends up. By the end of Thursday, that low pressure is starting to go off up towards Norway, and then we're beginning to see things calming down a bit, although still very windy. And as the wind's going to the northwest, we start to bring colder air back in from the north and the west once again, so showers will turn increasingly to snow up in the north. That's the GFS. This is how the ECMWF sees things developing. We can only go in 24-hour steps with this, unfortunately, not the 6-hourly steps that we go with the GFS. So this is midnight on Wednesday. There's the storm system there in the central Atlantic. Doesn't look too bad. As we go through 24 hours, the storm system again is running into the northwest of Scotland. So it's in agreement, really, the ECM and the GFS on the track of this low pressure, taking it into the north and the west of Scotland. Worst of winds on the southern side, of course. We get the initial push of wet and windy weather across the country, and then as the low pressure comes in, we get the worst of the winds through Northern Ireland, again probably with this southern parts of Scotland and northern England. So we go off 24 hours again into midnight on Friday, and the low pressure going off up towards Norway. So it does look as though it's going to be more northern parts that get the most damaging of the winds on Thursday. On the current evidence, of course, that is subject to change, and this could be trending southwards again over the next few updates. I will be keeping an eye on it for you. Now, once we get that storm system out of the way, we go into a much colder flow. So this is the GFS chart for Saturday. Saturday the 17th, and the low pressure that was the storm is going off into Scandinavia, and we're putting down this cold northerly northwesterly wind, and that takes us into Sunday with a cold northerly flow establishing. That could be bringing snow showers into the north and the east of the country. There will also be night frost with that. A bit of a ridge starting to topple in from the Atlantic through the course of Sunday. Could give us a mainly settled day, but then the Atlantic tries to move in on Monday, and that's coming up against that cold air. So I've got low pressure coming in, and you'll see from the the elongation, the kinks in the isobars, but as the low pressure is coming into that cold air through Monday, there's a stall occurring. This low pressure is stalling across the country within cold air. That's one of the things we look for to be telling us that there's a chance of snow when you get low pressure sort of stalling and elongating across the country within cold air in that way. And as we go through to the end of Monday, you see that the low pressure hasn't really made a great deal of progress. It's actually to the northeast of the country, just to the northeast, but we're still putting down quite a cold northwesterly wind on the back side of that low pressure. So the upper air temperatures are quite interesting. This is the 850 upper air temperatures for 6 o'clock in the evening on Sunday within the -5 iceberg, so it's a cold day. We go through into midnight on Monday. And this is the weather system coming in off the Atlantic, this increase in the temperature just here. Keep an eye on this yellow area. When you're inside that yellow area, the 850 temperatures have gone above 0 degrees and it can't snow. You can get freezing rain in some situations when you're within that yellow area if the surface area is cold enough, but it can't snow. Outside of that yellow area, it can snow with temperatures between -5 and 0 degrees at 850 HPA. So keep an eye on that yellow area. It's the warm sector, and you see that warm sector just slips to the far southwest of the country, never really pushes in. That's the cold air sort of hanging on and the mild air stalling against that cold air. So that's something else that is indicative of the snow. When you see the warm sector being pushed away in that way as it comes up against the cold air, that is something else that tells you there is a risk of snow occurring. So as we go through 6 o'clock in the evening on Monday, we're back within the -5 ice firm, and it's turned cold once again. So that is indications that there's snow going on in a week's time. Now this is a week away, so don't be running away with the idea that we're going to see quite a bit of snow. This low pressure may not even get in by the time we get to next Monday, but that's just the indication from the model this morning. Going out beyond that, we see the low pressure running down the North Sea, so it's still struggling to clear the country. Again, that's just indications that the cold air is proving very stubborn, and this low pressure that tried to bring the mild air is not clearing the country as you expect. We end up on day 10, Thursday the 22nd, with a milder push by then. The Atlantic does break through and bring this southwesterly flow in, but that's a very long way off, and when you've got weather systems stalling within cold air, there's nothing to say that the subsequent weather systems can't stall within that cold air. So I wouldn't want to go too far beyond sort of a week's time. This is the parallel GFS, and by the way, the parallel GFS will become the main GFS on a Wednesday. The operational GFS that we've been using for the last year or two is being retired on Wednesday, and this will become the main GFS model from Wednesday. So a bit of a special day for us weather geeks on Wednesday. So we go through into weekend, we bring down this cold northerly wind on the GFS parallel. We go through to Sunday, still within that northerly wind. That could be bringing snow showers into the north and the east of the country and hard overnight frost. And then the start of next week, again, the Atlantic tries to displace that cold air, moves the weather system in across the country, and again you'll see the ice bars are elongating. We've got a kink occurring within the flow, indicating that the mild air is struggling to get in. It's stalling up against that cold air, and there could be some snow taking place eventually by the time we get through to day 10, Thursday 22nd. The Atlantic does break through and brings that mild air in. And then finally, the ECMWF for Saturday will bring down that cold northwesterly wind. Doesn't produce as much of a northerly as the GFS products are doing, but even so, this is cold air coming down across the country next at the weekend. Will be pretty cold. And then the ECMWF starts to move the Atlantic through here as we go through into Monday, coming up against that cold air. And yeah, it's stalling again. This shows the stall by midnight on Tuesday is to the east of the country, so mild air is coming back in from the Atlantic. But a stall has occurred there. We can't see the midday chart, unfortunately, on the ECM, because again, as I said, ECM only goes out in 24-hourly steps, not the 6-hourly steps of the GFS. If we could see the midday chart, the midday Monday, I think there would be a stall occurring across the country, and there would be. the risk of snow with that. So that's for a week's time. The risk of a snow event next Monday. We'll be keeping an eye on that, obviously. Before then, we've got the storm system coming up midweek, been trending further northwards, so it looks like southern Scotland and Northern Ireland, Northern England get the worst of the damaging winds on Thursday, but it is subject to change. After that, we could be setting up a bit of a cold spell. It's a slow burner, it's creeping up on us, no sign of anything desperately severe, but yeah, I think could be setting up the coldest spell of the winter so far as we're going through the end of the week into weekend, possibly going out into next week. So all very interesting. Keep checking back for more updates. I'll probably update the Snowwatch page tonight or this evening, having a look at the situation tomorrow across parts of the country. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.